from youngwifesguide.com, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make homemade chapstick. A few weeks ago on Instagram I posted a photo that my sisters and I had made homemade chapstick, and I got a ton of comments from you guys on Instagram and Facebook asking for my recipe, what ingredients I use, and how we make it. And homemade chapstick just takes a couple minutes. It's super easy, and it's my favorite chapstick ever. So I really wanted to show this tutorial with you guys because it's really easy to make. So the first thing I want to show is the ingredients. There's a few different ways that you can make chapstick, but my favorite kind to make is cocoa peppermint. And the way you get cocoa peppermint is by using cocoa butter and peppermint essential oil. You can also use shea butter instead of cocoa butter if you want, but I love the smell that the cocoa butter gives it. But shea butter will work just as well. And you don't have to use any essential oils if you don't want, and it can be unscented. Or you can use peppermint essential oil. Lavender is also a good one. Or you can experiment and try your favorite kind of essential oil and see how it works. So the ingredients we have here is just plain coconut oil. And we're going to be using 2.5 tablespoons, 2 teaspoons of coconut oil. The next ingredient here is cocoa butter wafers. And as you can see, this kind are in little wafers. You can buy it in different forms. But this particular brand I get from Mountain Rose Herbs. And I'll have a link to that in the article to where you can find exactly where to get this. I love this form of cocoa butter wafers. It's certified organic, and it has the best smell to it. And I get that from Mountain Rose Herbs. And this coconut oil is just what I get from Costco. It's a fantastic price. That's where I always get my coconut oil. The next ingredient here is organic beeswax. This beeswax I get from the bulk herb store. You can also get it from Mountain Rose Herbs, and I just recently found some on Amazon for a good price. So just play around and find the best price, but I've been really happy with this kind from bulk herb store. The next ingredient is olive oil, and this is organic extra virgin olive oil that I buy, again, at Costco. It's a fantastic price, and we don't go through olive oil all that fast, so this bottle here lasts us forever. The next ingredient is vitamin E oil. Vitamin E is really good for your skin, and it's also a natural preservant, so you don't have to worry about mold or bacteria growing on these, because this is going to help preserve it without any chemicals. And then the last one, like I already talked about, is peppermint essential oil that we're going to put in it. And so, like I said, we're going to put 2 teaspoons of coconut oil, and we're going to do 2 teaspoons of the cocoa butter. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of the beeswax, and then we're going to have 2.5 tablespoons of the olive oil. Now with the olive oil, when you make this yourself, you can experiment with it, because the olive oil is what's going to either make the recipe a little bit softer or a little bit harder. So if your chapstick comes out a little mushy, then go ahead and take this down to 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and if you want it to be a little bit softer, then you can go ahead and take that up to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I found 2.5 makes it a pretty good mixture, but you might have your own preference. So when you're making this for your next batch, you can experiment with that. And then we're going to have just half a teaspoon of the vitamin E oil. You don't need very much of it. And just 4 drops of your essential oil. And this, it can vary too by your taste. Peppermint's pretty strong, so I only put 4 drops in for a batch like this. But if you're using lavender and you decide you want a little more smell, then you can put 6 drops or so, but just experiment because everybody's going to have their own preferences when it comes to the strength. So the other tools that you're going to need are empty chapstick bottles, and you can find these on Amazon. I bought this batch on Amazon, and you can also find them on bulk on Mountain Rose Herbs. You can order these. They're really cheap. They're a few cents each, and as long as you hang on to them and not lose them, you can use them over and over again, and these, a bag of 25 can last you forever. And you're also going to want some sort of glass container. Mason jars work great. Because we're going to mix all these ingredients in here and heat this up to melt it on the stove. So you want something glass that can stand that. And then you're also going to want some sort of dropper so that we can fill up each individual chapstick bottle, because these things are really small. So that's basically all you need. It's really quick. Once you've got all your ingredients measured out, we're just going to pour these first 4 into it. So we're going to put our olive oil in, our beeswax, the cocoa butter wafers, and the coconut oil. And the beeswax, what we're waiting for basically is for the coconut oil, the beeswax, and the cocoa butter to melt. And that's all we're waiting for. You don't want to get this to get really, really hot, and you don't want it to boil, but we're basically just going to be gently heating this up until the beeswax and everything is liquefied into a liquid. And so you're just going to take a small pot, and you're going to fill the pot about halfway with water. You're going to just put this right in, and then we're going to gently heat this on the stove. You don't want it to get to a rapid boil, and you don't want it to get too hot because your glass could break. And so we're just going to gently heat it. It takes about 10 minutes for the oil to melt, and then I will show you our next step. Okay, it's been about 8 minutes, and as you can see, our oil has, all the solids have turned into oil. Now, be careful when you do this. As you can see, it's already starting to harden. As soon as this hits the air, it starts to harden right away, so you want to work quickly. And even by the time I get to the end of it, sometimes it's starting to get hard and stuck in my tubes. So just make sure you work quickly with this. If it does start to harden and you're not finished yet, just put it back on the stove and heat it up. It'll melt right back up. So what we want to do now is add in the essential oils. So I'm going to add in 4 drops of my peppermint. And then we're also now going to add half of a teaspoon of the vitamin E oil. And then mix that all up. And then this last step's really easy. Just make sure you don't knock the chapstick bottles over as you do it. But we are just going to fill up our droppers and start filling, start filling up your chapstick bottles. Once you have your chapstick bottles all filled, you want to let them sit for a few hours before you put the caps on. I generally let mine sit for 3 or 4 hours just to make sure they're nice and hard, and then put the caps on and you're good to go. Including the time that you take to heat this up on the stove, this whole recipe takes only about 10 minutes. And you make about 25 tubes at once, which will last you a long time. So what I love to do is I love to make a big batch of these and then give these out to my friends, because I love this recipe. It's so good, it smells amazing, and it works so good on your lips, and it's really, really cheap. When you first buy all the ingredients and you're buying big bags of stuff, yes, it's more expensive than buying a couple tubes of commercial chapstick, but you have those ingredients then for years to come, and you can keep making fresh batches for just a couple cents at a time, especially if you don't lose the tubes, which I'm notorious for doing. But when I make it homemade, I try harder to make sure that I keep the tubes. But this is just a fun little recipe. It's a really fun thing to share with your friends and family and to give as gifts. And so I hope you enjoyed this. I also am hoping to do a homemade sunscreen recipe to show you guys if you're interested in that. So in the comments, let me know if you want to see a homemade sunscreen recipe. And thank you so much for watching this video. And if you want to get more gospel-centered homemaking, then head to youngwifesguide.com and sign up for my email newsletter, where you can get a free ebook and free scripture printables on how to memorize scripture, and with specific cards for biblical womanhood and anxiety, and some tips on how to get the most out of memorizing scripture. And again, you can find that at youngwifesguide.com. Thanks for watching.